Nobody warns you the moment your life decides to collapse. There's no siren, no countdown, no gentle tap on the shoulder saying, "Hey, brace yourself." It just arrives, without mercy, without apology. One ordinary morning you wake up and suddenly everything you believed was solid crumbles. Your plans, your relationships, your sense of who you are, gone. And you're left standing in the wreckage of a life that doesn't look like yours anymore, wondering how you got here and whether you'll ever find your way out. Most people in that moment do one thing. They break. They cry until they can't breathe. They call everyone they know, begging for comfort. They scroll for hours looking for something, anything, to numb the pain. And I understand it. I really do. Because when the floor disappears beneath you, the instinct is to grab for anything solid. But here's what no one tells you in that moment of darkness. That collapse, it's not the end. It's the beginning of the most important test you will ever face. And the question it's asking, the only question that matters, is this: what are you made of when everything is taken away? Not who you are when life is good. Not who you are when people are watching. Not who you are when you're rested, comfortable, certain. But who are you in the dark, when the money is gone, when the people you loved walked away, when the future looks so foggy you can't see your own hand in front of your face? That is when your real self walks through the door. And today, right now, I'm going to show you something that most people never discover, not because it's impossible, but because it's so uncomfortable they turn around before they reach it. I'm going to show you how to build a mind that cannot be broken, a mind that doesn't just survive storms, it uses them, a mind so forged, so precise, so cold under pressure that the things which once destroyed you can no longer even reach you. Stay with me, because what comes next will change how you think about pain, about control, about who you are allowed to become, but only if you're willing to hear it all the way through. Let's start with the truth that no one wants to say out loud. You have been trained your entire life to run from discomfort. From the moment you were a child, the world rewarded you for being okay, for smiling, for recovering quickly, for not making things difficult. And so you learned, without even realizing it, that pain was the enemy, that suffering meant something had gone wrong, that the goal of life was to feel good, to be comfortable, to stay safe inside the soft boundaries of the familiar. And now, years later, that training is costing you everything, because here's what that same world never told you. Comfort is the slowest form of death, not physical death, something far worse, the death of who you could have been, the death of the version of yourself that was supposed to emerge from the fire, the death of the man or woman who, somewhere deep beneath all the layers of softness and avoidance and people-pleasing, was always meant to be extraordinary. Weak minds seek comfort. It's not an insult, it's a pattern. When something hurts, they look for distraction. Music, food, screens, substances, the reassurance of other people's voices filling the silence. Anything to avoid sitting alone with the truth of what's happening inside them. And the world is designed for this. Entire industries exist to make sure you never have to feel uncomfortable for a single unguarded second. But here's what you need to understand, down to your bones. Every time you choose comfort over confrontation, you train your mind to be smaller. Every hit you avoid today becomes a heavier blow tomorrow because you've never learned how to absorb it. Every moment of escape only postpones the reckoning. And eventually, inevitably, the storm comes so hard, so fast, that your untrained mind has nothing left to grip. The person who runs from discomfort is never actually at peace. They're just always one crisis away from collapse. Strong minds work differently. They don't seek comfort, they seek control, and it starts from within. When something breaks them open, they don't reach outward for something to fill the hole. They go inward. They get quiet. They sit with the wreckage and they ask with brutal, unflinching honesty, what does this moment require of me? That question alone separates the fragile from the forged. While others chase pleasure, you train focus. While they run toward noise, you sit inside the silence and let it teach you. While they panic and post and perform their grief for validation, you plan, quietly, deliberately, without needing a single person to understand. And people will call you cold for this. They'll say you've changed, that you become distant, that you're not the same person they used to know. Let them say it, because what they're really saying, whether they realize it or not, is that you've become impossible to manipulate. Your stillness unsettles them. Your refusal to react robs them of a handle they used to grab when they wanted to move you. And without that handle, they don't know what to do with you. Good. You are not here to be easy to understand. You are not here to be liked. You are here to become so rooted inside your own mind that nothing external, no person, no circumstance, no loss, no failure can uproot you. And that journey begins not with strength, but with a single terrifying act of honesty, admitting that the most dangerous war you'll ever fight is the one happening inside your own head. Let me tell you something about emotion that nobody ever taught you in school. Emotion is not the problem. Emotional domination is the problem. There's a critical difference between feeling something and being enslaved by it, between noticing pain and being defined by it, between experiencing fear and letting fear make every decision for you. Most people were never taught that gap exists, so they live their entire lives as prisoners of whatever they happen to feel in a given moment. They're happy when things go well, devastated when things fall apart, and completely at the mercy of whatever emotional weather system moves through them on any given day. And here's the brutal truth. That makes them predictable. When you react emotionally and automatically, every time the same way, the world learns how to play you like an instrument. They know which notes make you angry. They know which silence makes you anxious. They know which words strip away your confidence and leave you scrambling for ground. And they use that knowledge, not always consciously, not always maliciously, but they use it. Because predictability is power in someone else's hands. You became what you became because you let emotion hijack your judgment. You handed the controls of your mind to feeling, to chaos, to the hot surge of whatever was loudest in a given moment. And the second you did, you became prey. This is where the transformation has to happen. This is the shift that changes everything. You have to break the pattern of emotional automaticity, not destroy your emotions. That would make you dangerous in a different, darker way. But learn to stand between the feeling and the response. Learn to feel the heat without instantly moving toward it. Learn to be the eye of your own storm. Think about it this way. Two men face the same betrayal. The same person lied to them, cost them something precious, left them standing in the same ruins. The first man explodes immediately. He texts angry. He confronts loudly. He broadcasts his pain and loses all his power in the process. The second man feels the exact same rage, the exact same sting of betrayal, but he breathes, he gets quiet, he observes, and then, when the time is exactly right, he moves, calculated, cold, precise. Which man recovers? Which man rebuilds? Which man makes sure the same thing never happens again? The one who controlled the space between feeling and action. Emotional discipline doesn't mean you stop being human. It means you stop being someone else's puppet. It means you cry, if you must, but behind locked doors, in your own time, on your own terms. It means you feel the full weight of what happened, because pretending you don't is just another form of weakness. But you don't let that weight dictate your next move. Your next move is chosen, intentional, timed. You speak less. But everything you say carries weight. You don't waste breath arguing with people who've already decided. You don't enter every battle just because you were invited. You know which fights advance your position and which ones only drain you. And that discernment, that ruthless economy of energy, is where your real power lives. Here's something they won't say in the self-help books because it sounds too hard. You have to unlearn the belief that reacting emotionally makes you authentic. It doesn't. It makes you readable. And a readable man is a controlled man. Real authenticity isn't falling apart in public. Real authenticity is knowing exactly who you are, knowing your values, your direction, your standards, and refusing to abandon them no matter what emotional weather passes through. That's not performance. That's mastery. And mastery is built exactly here, exactly in the moments when the fire comes and you don't flinch. Not because you're not afraid, but because you've trained for this, because you've sat alone with your hardest thoughts and refused to look away. Because you've walked into the storm inside your own mind so many times that it no longer scares you the way it used to. The next time life throws fire at you, don't run, don't crumble, stare it down. You've been broken before. You survived what you thought would end you. And this time, you won't just survive it, you'll use it. That is the difference between who you were and who you're becoming. Now let's talk about something most people will never willingly confront. The story you're telling about yourself. Because here's the thing about broken people, and I mean this with zero judgment, because most of us have lived here at one point or another. They stay broken, not because life keeps hitting them, but because they keep choosing the same story. They wear their suffering like armor. They lead with it. It becomes their entire identity, the first thing they say about themselves, the lens through which they interpret every new experience. I had a hard childhood. People always let me down. Things never work out for me. And that story, however true it might have been once, becomes the cage. Because the mind is not neutral. It doesn't just observe your experience. It shapes it. The story you repeat to yourself becomes the filter through which you see every new opportunity, every new relationship, every new door that opens in front of you. Tell yourself long enough that you're a victim, and your mind will work tirelessly to confirm it. It will find the evidence. It will arrange your perception of events to fit the narrative. It will quietly close doors before you even know they were open. This is not weakness. This is simply how the human mind works. It seeks consistency. It looks for patterns, and it will use whatever story you give it. So the question isn't whether your pain was real. It was. The question is, are you going to hand your future over to a story about your past? You are not your trauma. Let me say that again slowly, because I want it to land in the part of you that most needs to hear it. You are not your trauma. What happened to you was a phase. It was a hit. It was a test. Brutal and unfair maybe, but a test nonetheless. It is not your personality. It is not your destiny. It is not the truth of who you are or what you're capable of. It's data, hard data about what you've survived, about what you're still standing after, about how much weight these shoulders can carry. And now it's time to use it. The people who rise, really rise in a way that cannot be taken from them. They don't rise despite what happened to them. They rise because of it. They picked up every shard of their shattered past and turned it into something razor sharp. They stopped telling the story of what broke them and started becoming the proof of what couldn't be broken. Your trauma is not your identity. Your pain is not your purpose. But it can become your power if you're ruthless enough to reframe it. Stop talking about what was done to you. Start demonstrating what emerged from it. Stop explaining your wounds to people who weren't even there for them. Start letting your results speak in a language that needs no translation. And listen, people will try. They will try to remind you of the old version of yourself. They'll bring up your failures, your falls, your lowest moments. They'll try to hand you back the victim role because it's comfortable for them when you're small, when you fit in the box they built for you. Don't answer that call. The most powerful response to anyone trying to drag you back to who you were is simply this. Make sure the version of you they're trying to reach no longer exists. That's how you rewrite the narrative. Not by arguing, not by explaining, but by burning the old version so completely that there's nothing left to go back to. There will be nights, and I won't pretend otherwise, there will be nights when your mind feels like the most hostile place in the world, when the doubt comes in waves, when the old stories roar back louder than anything else, when you want, more than anything, to just disappear for a while. And in those nights, you'll be given one choice: collapse or construct. Fall back into the familiar ruin, or pick up one brick, just one, and place it, not for anyone else, not for validation, not for applause, just because you decided that this version of you is worth building. And because once you make that decision with your whole chest, no amount of darkness can make it untrue. You are not the damaged version of your past. You are the weapon that version of you created. Here's something you need to understand about attachment, and I mean this in the fullest sense of the word. Attachment is the most silent killer of mental power that exists. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't feel dangerous at first. It feels like love, like loyalty, like deep care for someone or something that matters. And sometimes, in the right measure, it is those things. But unchecked, attachment turns into chains. And chains, no matter how beautifully they're made, are still chains. You've done it. I've done it. Everyone who has ever tried to hold on too tightly to something that was already leaving has done it. You waited past the point of dignity. You changed yourself to fit someone else's comfort. You bent your values, dimmed your brightness, compressed your ambition, all to keep something close that was never meant to stay. And every time you did that, you fractured your armor a little more. Because the foundation of mental power is this: your inner state cannot be hostage to your outer circumstances. The moment something external, a person, a relationship, a job, an outcome, a version of the future you'd planned, the moment any of that controls how you feel, it controls you. And a controlled man is a weakened man. This isn't about becoming cold. This isn't about never caring. I want to be absolutely clear about that. The most powerful people I've ever encountered or studied felt things deeply, more deeply perhaps than most, but they felt it from a place of wholeness, not dependency. They could walk into love without needing it to survive. They could care about an outcome without being destroyed if it changed. They could give without needing the gift returned in kind. That's not coldness, that's freedom. And there is nothing on this earth more powerful than a free mind. When you stop attaching your peace to external things, something terrifying happens. Terrifying for the people around you, not for you. Your silence stops being emptiness and starts being intention. Your absence stops going unnoticed and starts being felt like a missing gravitational force. Your stillness stops reading as indifference and starts reading as a power that doesn't need to announce itself. People will wonder why you don't react, why you don't chase, why you don't beg for closure or explanation or one more chance. They'll wonder why you seem so settled, so grounded, as if you found some secret reservoir of calm that none of them can access. And you have. That reservoir is the mind that has learned to stand on its own feet. Every time you detach from something that was draining you, you take back a piece of your power. Every time you stop explaining yourself to people who've already decided what they think, you sharpen your focus. Every time you walk away, calmly, cleanly, without drama, you teach the world something essential. You were never meant to be owned. Now they'll push back. Of course they will. They'll say you've changed, that you've become selfish, cold, unreachable, that you used to be warmer, more open, more available. And here's what's really underneath all of that. They're grieving their access to you because you were easier to influence when you were fractured. You were easier to direct when you needed something from them. And now that you've withdrawn that need, they've lost the leverage. That's what the complaints are really about. You don't owe anyone access to your emotional interior. You don't owe anyone the ability to pull your strings. Real loyalty, the kind that means something, doesn't require you to sacrifice your own foundation to prove it. You need clarity. You need emotional distance. You need the kind of quiet, fortified inner space that lets you see situations accurately, not through the fog of desperation or fear of loss, but with eyes that are clear, cold, and focused. Build that fortress inside you. Build it brick by brick. Not out of bitterness, not out of spite, but out of deep, unshakable respect for yourself. Because here's the truth. Most people live their entire lives without discovering. Once you build a mind that doesn't need external validation to feel stable, the world completely loses its grip on you. They can talk, they can leave, they can lie, they can betray, but they cannot break what they cannot access. The more you detach from what drains you, the more presence you carry. Not because you're gone, but because you're no longer available to be diminished. Power doesn't chase. Power becomes still. Power creates an absence so intentional that people feel it in the rooms you no longer enter. That is your new way of moving through the world. Let's go deeper now. Let's talk about something that you've been taught to see as an obstacle, but which is actually one of the most sacred gifts life can give you. Solitude. Real, chosen, deliberate solitude. Not the loneliness that comes from rejection. Not the isolation of someone who has given up, but the chosen darkness of a person who has decided to go inward, to step away from the noise of the world, because they understand that the most important work they will ever do cannot be done in public. They'll tell you that being alone is dangerous, that isolation is a symptom of failure or depression or weakness. And they say this because weak minds genuinely cannot stand silence. They need the constant hum of other people's voices to drown out the war happening inside their own heads. Remove the noise, and they're left alone with thoughts they've spent years trying not to think. But you're different now. You're entering a phase that most people never willingly choose, and even fewer survive intact. The phase of intentional withdrawal, stepping back from everything that distracts, everything that performs, everything that consumes your energy without returning anything of value, to go somewhere quiet and meet yourself fully, honestly, without anywhere to hide. And here's what happens in that silence. Every fear surfaces. Every unresolved question rises. Every belief you've been carrying without examining starts to demand examination. Every wound you thought had healed shows you the scar tissue that's still tender. And all of it is terrifying, which is exactly why it's necessary. Because this isn't just healing. Healing is gentle. What happens in true solitude is something more like surgery. You open things up. You look at what's actually there, not what you wish was there, not what feels comfortable to believe, but the raw, honest reality of what's living inside you. And then you decide, with ruthless clarity, what stays and what goes. Old beliefs that kept you small, gone. Habits that gave you temporary comfort at the cost of long-term power, gone. The version of yourself that asked for permission, that apologized for taking up space, that bent and bent and bent until there was nothing left, gone. You stop thinking like someone who's just trying to survive. You start thinking like someone who is building. And the difference in those two modes of thought is so vast, so complete, that people who've shifted from one to the other sometimes say they can barely recognize who they used to be. In isolation, you rewire. You go from chasing dopamine to chasing discipline, from asking why things happen to asking how you can use what happened, from reacting to every external event to moving through the world with a strategy, quiet, deliberate, patient. And the doubts will come. They always do. Old habits will knock. Past relationships will try to resurface. Your weaknesses will wear the costume of logic and whisper perfectly reasonable sounding arguments for why you should stop, go back, settle. This is the test within the test. Don't open the door. The greatest thing about solitude is what it strips away. It removes the noise that was drowning out your instincts. It removes the opinions of people who aren't living your life. It removes the endless performance of being who everyone else needs you to be. And in that absence, you discover who you actually are, not the identity that was assigned to you, not the personality that developed as a defense mechanism, but the real, deep, essential self that has been there all along, just buried beneath everything you were told to be. When you emerge from that, and you will emerge from it, changed in ways you can't yet predict, you won't come back the same. You come back with something in your eyes that wasn't there before. A quality of attention, a calmness that reads to people who haven't been where you've been as almost unsettling. Because a mind built in solitude doesn't need to perform strength. It doesn't need to announce its confidence or defend its choices or justify its direction. It simply is, and that kind of being, rooted, quiet, unafraid, is rarer than you know. There are two ways a person can return from the depths of isolation: more broken or more dangerous. There is no middle. The weak come back needing reassurance that the journey was worth it. The powerful come back needing absolutely nothing from the world because they found in the dark everything they were looking for. Silence is not emptiness. It is preparation. Go into it willingly. Stay in it longer than feels comfortable. Let it do what it came to do. Because the version of you that comes out of that silence, sharp, clear, unattached, unafraid, is the version the rest of your life has been waiting for. Now, I want to tell you something about pain that will completely reframe every hard thing you've ever been through. Pain is not the enemy. I know that sounds almost cruel to say, especially if you're in the middle of something that's ripping you open right now. But stay with me because this matters more than almost anything else I'm going to say. Pain is the most honest intelligence test that life ever gives you. Not school, not books, not any degree or certification or accumulated credential. Raw pain, the kind that breaks your routine, shatters your illusions, exposes every place where your armor has gaps. And the question it's asking, always, every time, without exception, is whether you're going to let it inform you or consume you. Most people let it consume them. They feel the pain and they react immediately, emotionally, automatically. They collapse into it, swim around in it, broadcast it, and ultimately build their identity around it. And in doing so, they miss the most important data point pain ever offers. It shows you exactly where you were exposed. Pain is diagnostic. It points with ruthless accuracy at the places where your mind was unprepared, where your judgment was compromised, where your defenses were left open. The betrayal that broke you, it shows you who you trusted more than you should have and why. The failure that humiliated you, it reveals the assumption you were making that wasn't true. The loss that hollowed you out, it shows you what you had built your sense of security on and whether that foundation was real. This is not about being hard on yourself. It's about being honest with yourself. And honesty at this level is a form of profound self-respect. When you begin to read pain as data instead of verdict, when you can sit in the fire of a hard moment and ask, what is this showing me? Instead of, why is this happening to me? Something shifts. The world stops happening to you, and you start happening to it. You become a tactician. A tactician doesn't walk into situations unarmed. They study patterns. They recognize moves before they're completed. They remember what happened last time and use that memory not to generate fear, but to generate strategy. They feel things, of course they do, but they don't confuse feeling with direction. They use the signal of emotion to access deeper logic, deeper perception, deeper presence. This is not something you're born with. It's something you earn through every hard thing you didn't quit on, through every moment you chose to analyze rather than escape, through every night you sat alone with a painful truth and said, I'm going to understand this rather than simply survive it. That's what builds the kind of intuition that looks like magic to people who've never developed it. That almost eerie ability to see what's coming before it arrives, to read a situation before it unfolds, to know down in your body when something isn't right, or when this time is different from last time, or when this move will cost more than it's worth. You stop feeling your way through life and start observing your way through it. And from observation comes calculation. And from calculation comes movement that is timed, chosen, deliberate. Movement that doesn't waste a single ounce of your energy on things that won't advance your position. You start to filter everything: conversations, relationships, environments, how you spend your attention, what you allow to take up space inside your mind. You stop showing up to prove something to people who were never watching in the first place. You start entering every situation with intention, with awareness, with a clarity about what you're there for and what you're not. And when someone tests you, as they will, you don't bark. You observe, you don't argue, you note, you don't react, you reposition. That quiet, deliberate repositioning is what terrifies people at a level they can't always articulate. Not the man who explodes. Everybody knows what to do with an explosion. But the man who receives fire and goes calm. The man who smiles slightly, says very little, and then, 6 months later, is somewhere entirely different and entirely more powerful than anyone predicted. That is the man life cannot easily defeat, because he doesn't just survive pain, he extracts the intelligence from it and uses it to build himself into something increasingly precise, increasingly difficult to move, increasingly ahead of whatever was thrown at him. So from this moment, and I mean it, from this exact moment, stop praying for the pain to stop. You don't need less pain. You need a mind trained to extract what the pain is carrying. You need the ruthlessness to sit with hard things long enough to understand what they're trying to teach you. Because the greatest breakthroughs in your life, I promise you this, they're not going to come when everything is easy. They're going to come in the fire, in the aftermath. In the dark quiet after the storm, when most people are still grieving and you've already started asking, what does this mean? Where do I go from here? And how do I make sure this never catches me unprepared again? That's the question that separates the people who survive their stories from the people who write something entirely new. And you are in the process of becoming the latter. Let me tell you about something the world uses against you more effectively than any weapon it has. It's not physical force. It's not money. It's not even fear, though fear is close. It's emotional bait. Every day, in ways large and small, the world dangles things in front of you designed to make you react, designed to pull you off balance, to get inside your head and set up camp there, dictating your mood, your decisions, your sense of worth. And most people, most smart, capable, well-intentioned people, take the bait every single time. Someone says something dismissive, and suddenly your entire day is shaped by the need to prove them wrong. Someone doesn't respond to your message, and suddenly a dark spiral begins in the back of your mind. Someone doubts you publicly, and you find yourself burning through energy not on your actual goals, but on defending, explaining, justifying, trying to get a person who probably isn't worth a minute of your attention to see you differently. This is how control works, not with force, with emotion. And the only defense, is to build what I call emotional immunity, not numbness. Let me be clear about this because there's a version of this idea that goes wrong. Numbness is avoidance. Numbness is building walls so high that nothing gets through, including the things that should. A person who is numb is not powerful. They're just sealed off, cut off from life in both directions. Immunity is something different. Immunity means you feel everything. You hear the criticism, you feel the absence, you notice the slight, but it doesn't reach your core. It doesn't alter your foundation. It washes over you and then it's gone because your inner stability is not dependent on what just happened on the outside. This is built through repetition, through daily practice, through actively refusing again and again to let external events set the temperature of your inner world. The weak give their energy away like they have unlimited supply. One insult and they spiral for hours. One unanswered call and their self-worth takes a blow. One setback and they retreat into victimhood, broadcasting their suffering until someone comes to soothe them. And every time they do this, they confirm to the world and to themselves that they can be moved, that they can be accessed, that anyone who wants to pull their strings has only to find the right thread. You cannot build anything lasting from that place. To develop real lasting emotional immunity, you have to do two things simultaneously. First, you have to stop giving people the reaction they're baiting you for. When someone throws fire at you, they want to see you burn. The most devastating thing you can give them is the sight of you standing there unaffected, already thinking 3 moves ahead. That silence, that settled, unhurried, unmoved silence is not surrender. It is dominance, the most sophisticated kind. And second, and this is the one that takes more work, you have to stop needing anything from the people who don't deserve access to your interior. Stop seeking validation from people who have demonstrated they don't value you accurately. Stop waiting for apologies from people who aren't sorry. Stop hoping for understanding from people who are actively invested in misunderstanding you. Release the need. Not because they don't deserve your anger or your longing or your desire for justice, they might, but because your energy is not theirs to consume. Your mental space is not a free resource they get to occupy just because they once mattered to you. A man who needs nothing from the people who once held power over him becomes, overnight, entirely unreachable to them. That's the transformation, not strength in the conventional sense, the kind that flexes and shouts and needs to be witnessed, but the kind of inner fortification that simply cannot be breached, the kind that lets you walk into a room full of people who doubted you and not need a single one of them to acknowledge what you've become, because you already know, and your knowing doesn't require their confirmation. That is the beginning of real power, not power over others. That was never the goal. Power over yourself, complete, unshakable, uncontestable ownership of your own mind. And that mind, once it is truly yours, is the most powerful thing in the world you will ever hold.